Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching in the world. This is the Talk Tonight podcast. I don't normally get a bit flustered, but my adrenaline's pumping. I was just at work a couple of hours ago and the factory opposite was literally blowing up. You may have seen it on the news. So that's Hull for you. You're coming to Hull in a couple of days, so
yeah,
I'm sure you're going to have fun. But yeah, so
that's intense.
It's very intense, Keith, and I was already a little nervous, and I'll tell you why, because We Are Scientists are a band that I've wanted to get on the podcast since we started 18 months ago. I was raised on your music, that debut album, a pinnacle part of my music intelligence, and it's an absolute pleasure. So without further ado, joining me today is the lead singer and guitarist of We Are Scientists, Keith Murray. How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.
I'm sorry it took 18 months. You only had to ask.
That is true, Keith. That is true. I don't know what it is about We Are Scientists that drew me to you, but I'm sure we'll get into it later in the podcast. But for now, let's talk about the tour starting tonight. Sheffield, Leadmill. Are you happy to be back in the UK?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, we think of ourselves as a UK adjacent band. You know, we spend so much time here. Like our tours in the UK are about as long as our tours in the entirety of the rest of Europe.
Okay.
So yeah, we love it here. The shows are always like super fun and high energy. So yes, we are deeply excited.
Lovely. What's your favorite city to play in the UK?
I mean, it sort of always changes. We just recently, Chris and I did an acoustic tour when the album Huffy came out. We just sort of did like a bunch of in-stores and stuff like that, just the two of us. And we did one in Leeds, which is a town we've been to, I mean, literally dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we just had and we've always liked Leeds, but we had a really great day in Leeds. Just like the Airbnb we stayed at was a really cool building. We found a really awesome cafe that we just like were hanging out in all day. We found an amazing record store with fantastic like local beers. And then the weirdest part was that we found an incredible Malaysian restaurant.
Right. Okay.
So just all in all, we had a fantastic day. The shows are usually very good in Leeds.
Yeah, of course.
Despite having had my shoes stolen on stage one time while I was wearing them.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I'd say right now Leeds is a big favorite.
Yeah, you're playing Leeds. Is it tomorrow night?
Yes.
The Bridnell Club, quite a famous venue to be playing. Yeah, I mean, I've not been to a vast amount of shows in Leeds, but I was working there in the music scene at the moment in Leeds, and just particularly up north in the UK, just seems to be really taking off. Obviously, you're coming to Hull, which have you ever been to Hull before?
We have, yeah. We've been to Hull a few times. I mean, I guess we've played Hull maybe like 4 times, something like that. But yeah, it's nice, cool. Nice town.
Yeah, it's not too bad when there's not vans flipping over and factories exploding. Anyway,
sure. It's the cultural capital of Europe, isn't it? Wasn't it voted like City of Culture
City of
2019 or something?
It's never dull in Hull, is the old expression. What differs between touring in the UK and touring in America? Because obviously I've never been to a show in America, but from all the shows I've been to in the UK, the crowds can be very intense, very high energy. Is it the same in America, or tell us about how it differs?
Yeah, I mean, people in the UK and the US, despite obvious cultural differences, tend to be pretty similar at shows. Like I think the thing that sort of defines a person at a We Are Scientists show is their personal taste that has led them toward We Are Scientists rather than any geographical trait.
Yeah.
So yeah, people tend to be the same. I mean, we're a little more like mainstream in the UK than we're considered in the US. In the US, we're definitely more of like an indie band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, people are fundamentally pretty similar all over the place.
Yeah.
I would say.
Because, I mean, you just mentioned about why people are drawn to We Are Scientists, and that is presumably because you've got a song for every mood. So you've got a song for if you're going through a breakup and you've got that heartache, or if you're going down to the beach and it's a nice sunny day, you're going to a gym. Is that the band making a conscious effort to sort of not hold yourself back and just make sure you've got a song for every single mood and, bringing in that vast variety of people?
It's definitely not a, I mean, I would say the only sense in which it's a conscious decision is that, having too many similar songs would make things awfully boring for everyone, us, the audience. But I think mainly it's just a facet of, us just being interested in all sorts of different themes and sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just about us not feeling like writing the same song over and over and over.
Yeah, because I was listening to the new album Huffy, which is out now on all streaming services, and you can get it on, is it one of 10 different coloured vinyls, which is incredibly cool. So yeah, get on that, link in the description below. I was listening to Sentimental Education, and I got quite a dancey feel to it. I could definitely see it in a club. I don't know, is that something that you've tried to do, make it a bit more upbeat, get people on the feet, getting that two-step going?
I mean, we definitely do tend to skew toward more upbeat songs. I mean, when we're writing albums, we definitely have our live shows in mind, and the more upbeat, danceable songs you have in a set, the more fun that set tends to be for us, at least. So
yeah,
I think not that we like try to make the songs dancey, but if there is a song that seems pretty upbeat and danceable, it's likelihood of making it onto the record is probably a little bit higher.
Definitely. Because I was thinking, is this sort of a new direction for the band with the album? I felt like going from that debut album to now, I feel like the way you enunciate and actually sing has changed along the way.
It's true. It is true.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Is it a new direction for the band, or is it just a case of you're getting older, you're getting more mature with your songwriting and your song performing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's that sort of thing isn't really a very conscious decision that we've made. I think it's just sort of the arc of our career.
Yeah.
It is very funny that I don't really have a great explanation for the change in my enunciation over time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what it is that I think my enunciation feels less mannered than it did earlier on, and I think that might just be a function of being more comfortable, and more confident in general. Where I'm like, oh well, I'm just going to sing it like my normal impulse would be.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I can imagine back in the day when you were coming about and you had, obviously you came up in New York, wasn't it? So around that time, you've got the likes of the Strokes making waves. So I can imagine there was a lot of pressure to impress because you're similar sort of genre music.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the only reason we are a successful band is that we spent so long trying to find our footing in New York City, where there are on every street corner, there are 4 amazing bands just standing around. So yeah, when you're surrounded by that many incredible bands, you really need to, get your shit together and be a very good band if anybody is going to pay you any attention at all. So we are very thankful that we were in New York at that particular period because it really forced us to get our act together.
So what was that time like for you as a band? Was it a case of just gigging as much as possible, getting that experience under your belt, and then you eventually started, getting noticed, getting that media attention? Or did it sort of happen? I know some bands we speak to, they're like, oh, one day no one really heard me, and then boom, overnight you became a sensation. For you, was it a long grind, or did it just happen?
I mean, it was a little of both. We had been a band for about 4 years in New York City before anyone really started paying much attention. And we were playing shows all the time, but we were playing shows like, with other friends' bands, just in like tiny clubs in Brooklyn and stuff, where like the entire audience kind of knows one another, and you're like showing up to support, your scene essentially. But yeah, once it, I think it's fairly normal that like once some people start noticing you, it's the snowball builds in size pretty quickly. So it was a little bit of both, where we felt like we were grinding away for a while, and then suddenly we got a lot bigger very quickly.
Like boom, there you are, established band. When did you first come to the UK?
That is a good question. I think our very first tour was maybe at the beginning of 2005. Yeah, our album came out at the end of 2005. So I think our first tour was the beginning of 2005. Not exactly sure. I should check that.
Yeah, because obviously when that album came out, as I mentioned at the beginning, that was very influential in my raising up in the musical world, because I was about 7 years old when that album came out, and
that's intense.
Yeah, I remember my dad bought it on CD just after hearing you back in the day on MTV Music. I can't remember which song it was. You had a really famous music video out for one of the songs on the debut album, and it was played on MTV Music every Sunday night at that period of time. So my dad was listening to it, and then he went out, bought the album. We used to go up into the loft and listen to it, and I was just thinking, these are good. And then I faded out of the indie rock music scene for a while. When I came back, it was a couple of years ago, and got back into like Arctic Monkeys and the likes. And then I stumbled back across We Are Scientists. I was like, I can't believe I forgot about this album. This is absolutely mega. And then it is, for me, one of the best track by track albums out there from that time. Obviously, that was when Arctic Monkeys released their debut, which is obviously an amazing album. But your album the year before, track by track, is very strong. And I'm sort of waffling here, but it leads me on to my next point, which is it's been in the news recently about albums with Adele removing the shuffle button off Spotify. I was hoping to get your thoughts on that, because for when you put an album together, obviously you do a story, or it's there for a reason. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we do think of our albums, as cohesive units. But the idea of people listening to just a few songs, or the songs, not in the right order, or at any given time, just listening to a chunk of the album, does not bother me in the slightest. And I think part of why, with Love and Squalor feels, pretty strong song by song, is that we do like try to think of each song that we write as a standalone thing as well. So I think it is a very interesting and like valid tactic to take when making a record, to like pointedly, have a song that might not be a single, but is there to establish vibe. And we tend to not write our songs thinking that way. We tend to we tend to like focus on the songs individually and then put the album together by choosing the song from amongst the songs we have, like which songs suit one another the best contextually. So we kind of we like it both ways. We don't mind. You can listen to our music however you choose.
Because I feel like bands nowadays, there's a lot less emphasis on albums. I feel like it's very single dominated. So that's how you get the streams. That's how you get the how you get the followers up. And obviously for you guys, you've just released an album. So tell us about how that all came about and the writing process around that.
The writing process probably was about maybe a year of writing, like a solid year of writing. And we went into the studio in February of 2020. We rented a studio in Manhattan. It was actually a friend of ours' studio who was out on tour. And about 2 weeks into recording the record, COVID hit and everything got shut down. But the friend of ours who loaned us the studio got trapped in Europe. His tour was in Europe at the time, and he was Irish, so he could not come back to the United States. So we ended up having a studio for months and months, and we were just going in there messing around for months at a time. So it was a much different recording scenario for us. Usually we're just in and out of the studio as quickly as possible. And it didn't really change our process very much. Like we still kind of tried to capture the songs as live as possible and like with as much energy and not try to like overproduce them. But I think just being in the studio that often, even when we were just hanging out together, kind of just like got you in that sort of creative mindset. Like writing a record and arranging a record are two very different skills. And I think we ended up having a lot more fun with the arrangements than we often do on this record.
Do you ever write a song like early into the album process and you think, wow, that's an absolute banger, that's a hit, and then by the time you come to arranging it, you listen back and you're like, oh, let's do another song. That
definitely happens all the time. I was pretty sure that I had this album written like 6 months before we started recording it. And then by the time we started recording, I think maybe only one of those songs made the record. So that's why it's good to spend as much time writing and like write as many things as possible, because you never really know how your perspective is going to change on things.
I'm sure you've got hundreds of unreleased songs and material.
We do.
Yeah,
we really do.
Have you ever thought about releasing some of that stuff, or is it just a case of it's not good enough?
I mean, I think, if we were, on our first record, we probably released like 10 or 12 B-sides over the course of that campaign. And so I think if it were still like an era where we were putting out individual singles and everyone had to have 2 B-sides or 3 B-sides, we probably there are like a lot of songs that we legitimately like that have never been released. But when you're putting out albums, you only want to put out the very, very, very best songs.
Of course.
And like it never feels very good to think, oh well, it didn't make this album, but we'll put it on the next album. That's never something like, even just thinking about it that way sort of disqualifies the songs in our minds. If like there are demos of ours that I listen to all the time because I think they're really cool songs, but it doesn't make me think, oh, we'll put this out, this will be the next record. I just you just move on, especially by the time we start recording the next record, it's been 2 years, so our tastes will have changed and we'll have written a bunch of other songs that we'll be excited about. So
I was just thinking that because obviously We're Taught Tonight, we're influenced by Oasis and the famous Nostalgia song. And obviously they released the Master Plan, which was a collection of B-sides, which didn't quite make it. That's just why I got thinking about that.
That is an incredible record.
Yeah, it sure is.
That is a better record than some of their actual records.
Do you know what? I couldn't agree more. Like the Master Plan just alone as a song is one of their best that they ever wrote.
So good.
And the fact that Noel dismissed it first, clueless. Are you a fan of Oasis and bands like that?
Love Oasis. Absolutely love Oasis.
In terms of like the UK music scene, are you very up to date with it? Do you listen to many bands from like upcoming?
I try to. Yeah. I'm really excited about Coach Party, who are on this tour with us. They're a very cool band whose music I was enjoying before we got them on the tour. So that's always a fun like incident that occurs. Have you got any festivals lined up at the moment? We have a few lined up for the summer, but I don't think any of them are announced yet. So we're not supposed to leak them.
Okay.
But we do have some stuff coming up for the summer.
Cool. When we speak to a more established guest like yourself, we do like to ask, what's the difference between playing your own gigs to playing a festival? Do you prefer it, or do you prefer your own personal tour?
I mean, I think we prefer our own shows, but it's always fun to like, it's a fun change of pace to play a festival. It's like, it's harder to play a festival because not everybody is there to see you. And some people may not have ever even heard any of your music. So it's, you sort of have to do a little more convincing to the audience. Like you have to show the audience why they should be paying attention to you. Whereas when you play your own shows, people show up because they really like your band and want to hear their songs. So it's a little like, you have to worry less about proving yourself and worry more about just like making those people have a great time. Yeah, no, that's it's very similar answer to what we got from Tom Grennan. He said that he takes it on as a challenge. Like he feels like he has to win over as many people in the festival as possible. Yeah, totally. Interesting stuff. So, Keith, I forgot to mention at the beginning, this is actually part of our Christmas episodes. I was just full of adrenaline. I was so excited. Part of our Christmas episodes, I have actually got some Christmas questions lined up for you today. So it's just some quick fire questions just to end the interview. Sure. First up, what's your favorite Christmas song? I don't know what my favorite Christmas song is, but for some reason I have had the old Christmas standard, "I'll Be Home for Christmas." You know that song?
Right. Yeah.
For some reason, that song has just like been in my head for the past 3 days. I can't explain it. I don't particularly want it there, but I also don't hate it. It's like a very pleasant song. I always like to like picture like Sinatra singing those songs, crooning them. But yeah, I don't know how it ended up in my head, but it's been trapped in my head for days.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Maybe Die Hard.
Die Hard. Wow, it's a very New York themed film, though, isn't it?
Well, actually, it takes place in LA, but he's a New York cop, so yes.
My bad.
No, that's all right. It does have New York associations.
Yeah, of course.
And then the third Die Hard 3 takes place in New York.
Yeah. I've been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know, the comedy. And obviously he's obsessed with Die Hard. And finally, have you ever considered releasing a Christmas song yourself?
We've never really talked about it. I mean, I know it's very much a done thing over here. We probably should at some point. We're just never really.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we'll get around to it one of these days.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Keith, it's been an absolute pleasure talking.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
I wish you all the best on the tour.
Thanks very much.
Again, Sheffield tonight, Leeds tomorrow, Hull on Friday. I don't know where else after that. I know you're finishing in London, aren't you? And then, you know, is it 15 dates you're doing?
Something like that. Our last show is on the last show is on the 9th. So
so I mean, we've got listeners all around the UK, if you can, get down to one of these guys' shows because it's energetic. It's absolutely fantastic. These guys are the real deal. Keith, again, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just have one last favour to ask you today. My sister, unfortunately, can't attend one of your shows as there is a 14 plus age limit.
Oh no!
She doesn't turn 14 until late in December. But she's an absolutely massive fan, and I was hoping today you could just wish her a happy birthday from We Are Scientists.
Of course. What's your sister's name?
So her name is Martha.
All right. Martha, look, I would apologize for you not being able to come to our show because you're too young. But look, if you had really wanted to come to the show, you would have been born a month earlier. So it's sort of your fault. I'm not going to get blamed for this. But look, we're all upset that you can't come. So I'm not going to point any fingers. I just would like to wish you a very happy birthday. Maybe next year, celebrate it a month earlier.
That's absolutely fantastic. This has been the Talk Tonight podcast. We Are Scientists. They're on tour. Check them out. And thanks for watching.